All right. Well, I am here with Mr. Gonzalez, our director of college counseling. So I want to thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Gonzalez, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here at Idea 12?
Yes, sir. So my name is Rolando Gonzalez. I'm the director of college counseling here at Idea Toros. Starting off on my fourth graduating class at Idea Toros, seventh graduating class with Idea overall. And I get the privilege to lead the work of providing college access and college opportunities for all our students, and particularly at our campus. One thing that I'm really proud of is we help provide a collegiate pathway for our current student athletes to continue on and become collegiate athletes and play at the next level. So that's a little bit of our work here.
Awesome. And I mean, we're kind of speaking out to give people information on Idea Toros, but also just Idea in general, because what today is about is recruiting students to Idea Public Schools to Idea Toros, right? And so I'd like to kind of just touch on a little bit overall about Idea, and then kind of get into Idea Toros, if that sounds good. Is that cool?
Absolutely, yes.
All right. So with that in mind, Idea's mission is college for all, right? And that's what it was founded on. And so tell me a little bit about why Idea's mission is college for all, and how we support kids in that
Yeah. So I think the best part about what you mentioned is like when it started, it was college for all, and I think a little bit of a shift has happened since then to where it's now to and through college, which is where I think where our work is becoming increasingly more important, but also competitive and keeping up with the trends of what we're seeing. College is looking for in their applicants, and it changes year by year. And obviously, at the end of the day, still being able to support our communities and the specific demographics that we service here in the RGV, for example. So I think that we're not only providing college access, we're trying to keep up as best as possible with the demands in um, higher education and making sure that we're sending students to the right people, not just the right buildings. And so we put in a lot of work in finding the best match, the best fit, whether that's the local college, the local community college, or finding the best degree to get them to their professional aspirations. But we make sure that at the end of the day, the college choice is the students and the families. And I think that that's the work that begins since eighth grade with us here, and since the students set foot as a pre-K or kinder student with us at Idea Public Schools.
Yeah, and you mentioned, like I said, the first when the goal started, it was everybody to college, right? Let's get everyone to college, and now it's let's get everyone through college, and so you mentioned something there in the fit, right? And so give me an example of like helping a student get to college, but it's not the right fit, and like how the consequence that can happen with that, and then so how we've shifted to sending them to the right college, right, or making that fit. So give me a little example of like of that how that factors in, and what it can be for students.
Yeah, so I think when we start with the bottom line is like we look at students' admissibility criteria. So obviously we support with a lot of the state exams, a lot of the national exams like ACT, PSAT, making sure that they're college ready when it comes to what the metrics are for admissibility. But where it really gets interesting, and that's where we spend a lot of our work, and that's where a lot of our time goes into, is making sure that we're sending them to a college where the student is going to be set up to be successful. So if it's the first time that a student is heading out and living away from families, if it's the first time that they're going to be living on their own, or sharing a space with somebody else, and then at the same time they have to provide for themselves and are going to have to manage their time differently, or they're going in as a college athlete, or now have to face additional hours of studying because they were used to being able to complete all the work at school and having very um, minimal homework, or they already have a schedule where they do their homework in an hour or two, and now it's the expected study time, I believe, is 3 hours of study time for every 1 hour of college credits that you're taking. And so we try to instill that mentality in them. But I think that the best thing that we can do is prepare them to be at a school where they're going to be successful for the next 4 years. So those conversations start early on, where we talk about expectations, and it can be as simple as like, hey, I know your favorite thing is not to be told to tuck in your shirt when you're, that's part of our culture of being a student here. But that goes into being able to handle expectations at any level, at any collegiate university level. And that just builds that discipline within them, that they don't see past like, oh, you're giving me a hard time because you're asking me to tuck in my shirt, versus when I'm in college and I constantly hear that I have to be above a 3.0, or my academic scholarship is at risk, or I have to be above a 3.5, or my academic my athletic eligibility is at risk, then it no longer becomes a shock to their system. They're prepared for that. And so I think that's what we focus on. We make sure that when we're sending them to the college that is going to be supportive of them for the 4 years, during the classes that are very difficult, during the semesters that are going to be a little bit longer because now you have an extra lab in the evening, or you have that earlier than an 8 a.m. class to make sure that you make it into the lab on time. You're prepared for those so they don't become setbacks. They just become ways that you adjust, just like you had to adjust when you were a student with us here. And so that's how I would say the preparation looks like when we're thinking of how we support them through. And then for them, just knowing that when they leave campus, they always have that focal point where they can come back and get not just a copy of their transcript, but also just to touch base and let us know how they're doing, how they've been, and having that sense of community that they have, that they will always be tied to as an idea alum.
Yeah, and I think that it sounds like there's a lot of conversations going on about college, right, and about what they want to get out of it, and the expectations maybe that they may run into, and may present challenges, right? And I think that those aren't always conversations that as parents we have with our kids, right? We kind of leave the school to the school kind of thing sometimes, or we don't know how to have that conversation. I mean, in my case, I'm a college graduate, but that's not the case in every home. Not every home has a college graduate there. They can speak from experience and things like that. And so I think these are important conversations that you guys are having. So I really appreciate that about you and your team. Um, can you tell me? I mean, I think I want to get into like some of like even the specifics, right? Like as far as like, okay, we're having these conversations, but what are some things that Idea Public Schools has in place to support these students? And things come to mind like AP and ACT and things like that. But tell me like how those things help prepare kids for college, and kind of the reason why Idea does that.
Yeah, so I think the level of preparation in itself is something that speaks volumes of how we lead the work at Idea Public Schools. So our classes, for the most part, everybody has AP for all, AP or IB. At our campus specifically, it's a AP program. So it's AP for all, which means that students are being prepared at the rigor and level of academic challenges that they'll be seeing in college, so that it also doesn't shock the system. Because at the end of the day, academic success is important for them to continue on and be in college for the remainder of their graduate or undergraduate studies. And so I think the level of academic preparation is definitely there. The support in making sure that there is nothing that is going to stop them from being able to access those opportunities. So focus on, for example, TSI, which is the Texas Success Initiative, which is an exam that basically gauges college readiness for any school in Texas, and then schools that are outside of Texas also see that as a metric of where they are as far as preparedness for the content and the material that they will be exposed to in college. ACT curriculum begins since middle school for all of IDEA public schools, so it's not something that we wait until junior senior year to test on. And so the longer that a student is with us, the more likely they are to be successful in that exam, which is directly tied to scholarship, which is another way that we are making sure that there's one less obstacle in their way. And ultimately, I think it comes down to them having the support of understanding uh, the importance of having a college going identity, which I think is one of the biggest things that IDEA places a lot of emphasis on in and around the classroom. So when you come into our campuses and you see the collegiate banners hanging everywhere, they mean something. That means that there's a student that's already understanding what that college is. By the time they're in eighth or ninth grade, they already know if their colleges are highly selective, or what they need to work towards, what's their next goal, so they can be prepared to potentially gain admission to those colleges. But more so, they no longer question, will I go to college, but rather, where will I go to college? So building and instilling those values of having a high college identity, we know has supported all of our alumni, has supported a lot of our graduating students to be um, present within their themselves and have that affirmation for themselves that say, hey, I'm college ready, and if this is a college that I'm going to, and this is where I'm going to be successful, not okay, I'm going to go to college, try it out, and if I don't like it, or if I'm not successful, then I'll figure it out then. And that may be the case. for some students, or some people might need an additional step to figure it out. But at the end of the day, when they get to make the choice will be up to them to decide where will I go, and it no longer becomes a if I will go, but rather where I will go. And I think that also supports the families because we deliver on the mission of we are going to guarantee that your son or daughter will go to the best school for them, and we are going to find not only the best school for them, but the best opportunity so that your mind doesn't have to linger around, can we afford it, can we, how do we make it work for them to be there. We don't want those obstacles to become a reason why a student doesn't apply or a student doesn't have that opportunity. And so I think that's our level of investment in building that pathway and access for everyone that attends Idea Public Schools.
Yeah, mindset's important, right? And so when you can switch that mindset, right? If I'm going to go, to when I'm going to go, to where am I going to go, those kinds of things. And I'm going to go and graduate rather than I'll go and try it, right? Like that, the mindset is important, right? And so all these things that are happening, them taking AP classes and knowing that I can take a college level course and be successful, right? And oh, by the way, you take 11 of them by the time you graduate, typically, right? Knowing that they've passed PSI, and that's the standard for that Texas kind of has put for the colleges to show that they're ready, right? So all these things help kind of boost that mindset, right? Like I am ready, I am going to go, and I am going to be successful, kind of thing. So yeah, that's awesome. Um, I think you guys provide. When I say you guys, I mean your team. Y'all are a team of two, right? And you and Mr. Castillo, and y'all provide a service that I think, like in really a lot of other school systems is not able to be provided. For many reasons, right? Sometimes it's just a numbers thing and things like that, or where the focus is. But what are some of the specific or ways that y'all help kids get ready or get into a college, so they know, like, hey, I want to go to this school, I've got the right mindset and stuff, but now, like, how do you come in and say, okay, let us help you get there? What are some of the things that y'all do?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, I think we have accessibility to be able to meet the students at any point that they're at, and that's in general across all Idea Public Schools. College counselors are specifically there to support access to and through college, and so that may start with a student who doesn't believe that they belong at a college or university, or who doesn't believe that they're academically ready, or for that matter, independent enough to go out and venture into starting a new chapter. And so the I think the ratios of students to counselors are very accessible within Idea Public Schools, and so that allows us the time to start preparing them for not only building that college identity, but also when it comes down to actually applying, we get to spend a lot of one-on-one time with each one of the students to make sure that everything from their writing is up to par, to providing them feedback on what types of schools they can adjust or they should be adding to their college list, what to expect for those that will be the first ones in their family to apply to a college ever, or for some it's still very common that they're the first in the family or their first generation. Some of them it's the persons that are graduating high school, and so we do have a lot of families that need that additional support. And so we provide orientation sessions, meetings throughout the year that create those guidelines for them, that make it more accessible, even if it's something as simple as translating things that are already out there, resources that are already out there for financial aid, or understanding what that may look like. Breaking it down to the level of understanding what types of loans there are, and what is subsidized versus unsubsidized, like things that for those of us that have already had the opportunity to go to college might now start seeming like common knowledge. It's still something that our communities very much so need the additional support with. And so that's part of how we continue supporting that in all Idea Public Schools. That's something that we take pride in. And that's why we know that as college counseling, we have that opportunity. And everybody that's a college counselor, everybody that we know that we get to work with, is there for those same reasons. We know that the college access doesn't just happen on its own, and it's not, there's no magic recipe or magic directions or instructions to follow. But we are able to meet all of our students and all of our families at the point that they find themselves, and then we're able to support with what they need and where they need, so that they can get to where they want to be, and to get to those choices and opportunities that are there waiting for them. Um, at the end of the day, what we don't want is any family or student to feel like we did not provide the opportunity for them to choose. We did not provide the opportunity for them to have an opportunity. And so we make sure that we remove all barriers, and that we provide as much education as we can to both the student and the families along the entire process.
and removing barriers, and I think sometimes we don't even realize some of the barriers that are in place, right? And so, what are some of those common barriers that you run into in working with families, working with students, and that maybe some of our, some people who are watching this may think like, yeah, it's not that easy. It's not. I'm in this situation, or I have that, or whatever. Right? What are some of those barriers that you typically come across, and how have you seen students push past that?
Absolutely. So I think there's definitely situations that are very individual, but what we tend to see is that there is one like a lack of knowledge, for example, that might scare some people off because they see financial aid and they automatically see as debt. Like I'm gonna, if I want to go to college, I need to be in debt, or I will have to owe money for a long time and then be able to pay back. So that tends to create an almost sense of fear within the families and within the students, and so essentially counseling them through that and walking them through that process is something that I see as a constant obstacle because at the end of the day, the student at question might be a very good fit for that university or that college, or that they've been thinking about, or the family has had their eyes on a specific university or program that they would like their students to follow through or follow with, but they are hesitant because at the end of the day they just see money. And so walking them through all the options that exist out there, from financial aid to whether it be federal or state, how those applications work and how that process works, all the way to understanding private loans, and scholarships and the amount of scholarships that their students can be eligible for based on the different circumstances. Like that is one of the most common obstacles that we see. But then also being within proximity to the Rio Grande Valley, we happen to have a lot of students that might be coming in from Mexico, and for the first time they're navigating the school system in the U.S. And so we have students that might be commuting or that might be attending high school for the first time in the US. And so getting them to understand that cultural shift and those expectations, and really just being able to support them and understand the importance of graduation and why you have to take those additional courses, or why the course load looks a little different than what you're used to, but ultimately leading to the same goal, or yielding the same results, which is your opportunity to not only get to college but to graduate and move on into that degree or that advanced degree, or get you closer to that dream profession that you and your parents have been working on since you know that, because you can think back to the first time you wanted to be a doctor, for example. Um, but I think those are at the top two, and I would say at the end of the day, it's also um, a lot of the times people see transportation as something that's limited. And so when we think of that school is really far away, or I would want them to go to that school, but there's not a bus stop right outside of my house or right outside of. I think when we're looking at the long-term investment of what you're doing in the future of your child's education and the opportunities that are being presented to your family with the promise that they will be able to get to and through college, it really becomes like a family affair. I think school in general is a family affair at all times, but I think at that point the whole family's invested. So parents are like, all right, we will make it work. We will find the closest and nearest bus stop to us. Student is on board and saying, I will wake up an hour earlier to make it to that bus stop so I can be at that school, or I will stay after school or catch that bus route that might take an extra 30 minutes. But at the end of the day, they see past the inconveniences of time, or they see past the inconvenience of like having to do that additional step to make sure that they secure that opportunity. And so that's not supposed to remove because we don't like people to feel that they can't get to the school, that they don't have access to the school. It's a numerous amount of resources that we've seen that we can provide for all of our students, regardless of where they're at or where and how far they are or how close they might be to an IDEA campus. And I think that's something that IDEA does really, really well, which is we cater or we provide those services so that all of our families um, don't feel that they are giving up more on their end, or that they are not, because of a lack of something as simple as transportation, they cannot have that same opportunity that every other family that is already an IDEA family has within access.
Yeah, it sounds like you're true counselors. You're counseling families, right? You're counseling kids and helping them through this unknown kind of road, right? Like even if you've gone to college, it's another thing to try and help someone go to college. As a parent, I said I didn't know how to navigate that world, right? So I needed help as well. I needed counseling, and I didn't come to you for counseling. Thank you for all you're doing for them. And I want to share something with you, and then I want you to kind of just let me know what you take from it, and then kind of why you think it is shared this way. I do these interviews a lot, right? And I was interviewing one of our students, and by the way, if I'm interviewing a senior and I say, who is the person, who is the teacher, who is this, right? Typically, it's you or Miss Castillo, right? That they bring up is because you work with them so much. When you say you have access, like that is not a line. Like they have access to you. They get to spend time with you, Mr. Steele, and really, get the counseling right. And it's very evident when I talk to these seniors, towards the end of their year, the work that you guys have been doing and the time you've been putting into it. So shout out to you guys. Um, but I was talking with Crystal, who graduated last year, and she said something that just stuck with me, And she said, you know, my college counselors, I've always wanted to go to TCU. She said, I've always wanted to go to TCU. That's my teaching school, and my college counselors helped me realize that TCU actually wants me, that they want me, that it's not just me wanting to go there, and that they want me, they need somebody like me there. And so, from someone who, and Crystal, someone who comes from humble beginnings, and things like that. And so for her to have that realization, like, wow, like a university like this wants me and needs me. She used the word needs me, and she ended up getting a full scholarship there. And so that was true, right? That turned out to be true, And so like that is so powerful to me that y'all were able to kind of counsel her through and help her realize her value, And that colleges want students too. It's not just students who want to go to colleges. And so tell me a little bit about like some of how that process comes about, how you change that mindset and help our kids realize how valuable they are.
Yeah, I think it's yeah that brought some great memories back to how it went last year, and so I think it's building that initial relationship with the students and getting them to trust you because you're about to walk them through a very wild ride, and they are going to go on lots of ups, lots of downs in that application process. We definitely see lots of moments get highlighted as an organization where the student gets into their dream school and gets accepted, but there's also a lot of moments where those denial letters hit just as strong and on the other side of the spectrum. And so I think that before we jump into the promises and us as counselors getting that opportunity because we work with them so often and at such high frequency, we get to know the students, the families, their circumstances very well. And so we know what schools are looking for that type of student in particular. And sometimes they don't see it because in this case, it was her dream school, which helped tremendously. And it was a school that she, had set her eyes on, I believe, since middle school. She had visited at some point and she had that vision of, I want to be here someday. But it's also to an extent they go through even I would say imposter syndrome as they're applying because they suddenly start looking at demographics and who typically gets in here and how much does it cost and it's figures and numbers that for some of our students they've never seen up close and when they start seeing them again here comes the barrier number one, right, the financial, where they're like, I don't even want to apply to that school because it's so expensive. And so when we look at what support systems are at the schools or at the universities, that's what helps us do our work a little bit better and a little bit easier for the student. So Ms. Castillo, I remember, started looking into some of the additional scholarships that Crystal could qualify for based off of her just academic merit alone. And that led her to ultimately getting the first ever Burger King scholarship recipient for us here. And so that's actually a pretty significant scholarship that makes a difference in cost. And a lot of people kind of overlook that one because they're like, Burger King doesn't have a scholarship. Like, how's that? How it's Burger King is Burger King? And it's like, yeah, and so she became our first recipient for here. And so that's the kind of groundwork that Ms. Castillo really focused on in supporting her, knowing that she already had her eyes set on that and that potentially the only factor was the financials. And so I think when you talk about like the university valuing the student, that's where we do the work over time because there were other schools that are going to seem more appealing and that are going to offer that specific program or that specific area of study that is going to want to make the student feel like I want to go there or nowhere else. And in this case, once she had the opportunity to go see the program and they invited her and they invited the parent, and parent was able to see that the deans and the VPs of schools and the professors of those programs are investing their time outside of what they do for the university as far as staff members and they're taking the time to meet with them one on one and chat with them in a very casual setting and really explain and give them insight on what the school has to offer, I think that's where the work reciprocates and it gives them the opportunity to say like they do care about me here. Like the dean just remembered me from meeting me yesterday. She knows my name now. And this morning she greeted me. She's like, "Hey, Crystal, how did you know? How was your sleep last night?" Like those kind of things where it makes a difference. And I think that schools that are doing that right, that's where we want to keep sending our students because again, it aligns with sending them to the right people that are going to set them up for success and support them while they're understanding of where they're coming from, right? So it's kind of an additional match and fit. And I guess on our end, it takes a little bit more of a research, but we've always built that foundation that the relationships matter and students will trust you at some point, maybe not right off the bat, but they will trust you at some point, even if it means that it's through all the hard work and through all the pushes that you're going to give them, right? Like it's not easy. We're upfront with them and we tell them there's going to be some point around November when deadlines are coming up that you see a college counselor and you want to run the other way because you're like they're going to ask me about something that's due or something that I still haven't turned into them or something that they need, and so it's for their own well-being, but it's never in a bad it's never coming from a bad place. And so I think once we get past that, it becomes easier. And on our end, that's part of our promise, right? Like we're going to try to find them the best schools, the schools that want them, the schools that are going to appreciate them, their culture, their family, what they bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, schools want to be known to be the best and they want to provide the best. And they have to be able to retain the best of what they get. And so we want to send them students that are going to be successful there, but that are also going to have and positive experiences and opportunities to grow.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's amazing. I mean, again, I really appreciate all the work that you guys do, and like I said, relationships matter. And every time I do those videos, it's evident that you've put the time in and built the relationships, and you've gotten through those tough times because they're always like, I would like to change this test here, or I would like to change this to the dollars. They really appreciate you, and so, so again, thank you for that. I want to now, kind of coming towards the end of the interview here. One of the two questions I would like to ask. One of them is more specific now to our campus, right? I get Toros. I say all the time. I feel like I'm blessed to work here. I feel like it's a special place. I mean, that's something that I've said since year one and believe and so I kind of want to know, and I know you feel the same way and stuff, but I'd like you to share. You've worked at another idea campus. You've worked at a university. You have different experiences. But what specifically do you enjoy about Idea Toros and the work you're able to do here?
Oh man, where to start? That's probably my favorite question. But I think at Idea Toros, like you said, it's unique in every way, from our physical space and our facilities to the community that we serve, because our students do range from really everywhere. And so I think we get such a diverse population as far as like backgrounds and maybe similar demographics. But I think the type of students and the families that we service are what make it such a unique environment and what make it also just as enjoyable. You have everybody that are coming from many different places as far as why they want to pursue that dream or that goal. But at the end of the day, when they arrive here, the promise to everybody is still the same. And so you have to get really creative and you have to work with lots of different personalities and characters, but you also get the blessing of working with some of the hardest working, already invested families and students because of what they're doing just to be here, just to have an opportunity at following those other opportunities, right? For those that want to be on the collegiate pathway to become a college athlete, or those that want to make sure that they're the first ones in their family to go to the most prestigious university, the first few scholars that started with us that are now being recognized nationally as academic scholars and AP scholar recipients, and getting those acclamations, accolades that come from challenging the AP exams and passing them, and they're being recognized at the national level. And so, not everybody that comes here is an athlete. We have a very large group of students that do want to pursue just the athletic route, but we service everybody. And I think here the ratio of being in a smaller campus, the ratio of having less groups is actually gives us more, because it gives us more opportunities to do everything and anything with the groups that we have here already, as far as academics, extracurriculars, um, everything athletics, anything that comes our way. Students get more opportunities to participate, and so less isn't always a bad thing. So we may have less students, but we definitely see an increase in the amount of opportunities that they get because of that. And so the attention to students is still there. The ratio of student to teachers is still there. Counselors, administrators to students is still there. And so I think that's actually one of the best parts about our school is that even at my previous idea campus, there was there was a bigger, I would say, learning curve for admin to know all students because of just having the bigger student body. And here, everybody knows who Mr. Reina is. Everybody knows who Ms. Manzano is. Everybody knows who Ms. Bolinas is. Like they they will know and be able to put a face to the name. And I think we can do the same very easily. So like we know who our eighth graders are, our ninth graders are, and not just by uniform. We actually know them because of where they've come from, how long they've been with us here, and where we know them even are if they're the second wave of siblings or that third sibling from the family that we've known for years. And so I think that's one of my favorite parts as well. And lastly, I will just say the team dynamics that we have. Like, I cannot think of another campus or any other program that the director of coaching gets to meet with the director of college counseling, and we really get to like put our brains together and come up with these lists of colleges that we probably on our own would have never come up with each other because we know different parts of the university context and parts of the athletic context. But then at the end of the day, we produce the best results for the opportunities that students would have, or the same for our instructional team and our coaches, or vice versa. Like it's such a close knit environment that everybody just works cohesively with each other because we're so well versed with the students that we know what is needed to serve them best, and we keep pushing each other to do that for them. So I that's the best way I can sum up at Toros.
Yeah, no, absolutely, community, absolutely. I want to finish with this. Ultimately, today is about providing information so that families can decide, if they'd like to apply for, a space here at Idea Toros. And so we have openings right now in grades 8 through 10. And so if I would like you to just speak directly to the families out there and just let them know, why you would like them to send their child to our school, and maybe what you would like to provide for them.
Yeah. I think if the opportunity is there, and if you've been thinking if idea is the right move, or if especially at Idea Todos, if you have the opportunity, we'd be happy to have you here. And if you haven't applied just yet, we are more than willing to help you find your home for the next couple of years, or the next 2 years, or the next 3 years, whatever grade they're starting at, and we're willing to work with you to make sure that you have that same opportunity, whether it be pursuing collegiate athletic opportunities, or becoming the next nationally recognized AP scholar. So we're willing to serve you here at Idea Todos. We have the team in place, we have the right people, and you would have one of the nicest looking facilities too. So that doesn't make it a bad opportunity or a bad place to be at.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, again for all the work that you do, and Ms. Castillo as well. I said y'all are team of two, and love you so much. And so thank you again. And like I said, if you're out there and you're wanting to apply, we're having tours today. So you can come in between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. And we'd be happy to give you a tour of our campus, let you meet some of our team members in person. And just like you said, we'd love to have you as part of our idea Toros community.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.